Hey, what's happening? This is Matt from Gruesome and Exhumed, and you are burning up on Hellbound, which coincidentally is one of our songs.
What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy Mean Gene from Hellbound. I'm with Matt from Gruesome and Exhumed, but tonight we're on, where are we at? Oakland? At the Golden Bull?
I hope so.
Gruesome. First NorCal date, right? First NorCal date?
I'm excited because, you know, I grew up in the Bay Area, and so obviously I have a lot of friends and stuff still up here, and excited to kind of see how the death metal scene up here has been really, you know, kind of re-emerging or emerging, because the first time that I was involved in the early 90s, it was always sort of like the redheaded stepchild, because thrash metal, even as it was waning, was still reigning in the Bay Area. And now it seems like there's a really good scene up here for this kind of thing, a lot of really cool bands and a lot of old friends. I was actually a little bit too late. If we could have made our first demo in '89, then we could have got signed, but we did it in '91 or the very end of '91 instead, so you know. Too late to be on the very beginning, and then too early for people in the Bay Area to sort of like get into the heavier thing.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Gruesome, pretty obvious homage to our friends in Death and Chuck. And were you part of that? Did you catch that? You being from the Bay Area, were you part of that when that Florida death metal wave came out here? Were you your ear to the ground and you heard it and you were on it, or did it take a while to grow on you?
Well, I think the first time I heard Scream Bloody Gore, I mean, I was like maybe 12. Yeah, I must have been 12. And I didn't really know what to think. I mean, I liked Slayer and like Creator and stuff, but I was like, what the fuck? Like, damn, I don't know if like I like this or not. This is kind of scary. And I kept coming back to it, and then a little while later, a buddy of mine showed me Leprosy, and I was like, you know, it was a little bit more comprehensible. And once I could sort of hear it better, and then I went back to Scream Bloody Gore, and I was like, oh, I love this. Okay, cool. And it was around the time when I was getting a little bit better at guitar, you know, so I sort of went through your typical guitar dude phase where you're learning like Kill 'Em All or whatever. Then I moved into like Celtic Frost because it was easy for a beginner to play. And then I moved into stuff on Scream Bloody Gore. And then by the time Spiritual Healing came out, I mean, I had my allowance like ready like the day it came out, and I went home and was like learning every riff that I possibly could. And, you know, of course, Obituary was one of the first death metal bands I heard as well, you know. And that was one of the first bands where I kind of realized I was starting to get into something other than thrash metal, that it was sort of in this other box over here. You know, I'd heard Slayer and Celtic Frost and stuff, but I didn't quite make the connection that it was something that was its own thing, you know. And of course, loved Morbid Angel, and I mean, I saw all those bands in the day. I saw Obituary the first time in December '90 with Sadis and Sepultura. I saw Death twice on the Spiritual Healing tour, although the first time I only saw like 2 songs because my dad was like, I mean, I was 14. I was 14 both times I saw him on that tour. My dad was like, we're leaving at midnight. The car's outside at midnight. If you're not in the car at 12 o'clock, like I'm driving back to San Jose, you find your own way home.
Yeah, pull the plug.
Yeah, totally. My dad pulled the plug, and I did not want to be stuck outside the Omni.
Okay.
You know, as a 14-year-old white kid from the suburbs, like, excuse me, is there a bus? You know, so I went out, you know, at 12:05 or whatever. My dad was pretty pissed, but whatever.
I'm jealous. I never got to see Death. I caught Obituary, and it was, I think, Cannibal Corpse and Malevolent Creation. There was a small club in Santa Clara called like One Step Beyond. There you go. That was it. I saw that show there.
I saw that same show at the same place with Agnostic Front.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah, I snuck back. We got there early. I snuck back. I was playing Nerf football with Alan West. You know, we were out there playing catch and stuff. You know, it was I was maybe 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. So, you know, we sound like we're pretty close in age.
Yeah, it's nice. I think you're actually older than me, which is so rare that I meet somebody now that's older than me. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just went to like it seemed like there was like a death metal gig like every month, you know, like it'd be like Morbid Angel, Entombed, Unleashed, and then the next month would be Immolation, Gorephobia, or whatever. Like the whole 91, 92, 93 era. And then Exhumed started playing shows in 92. We played with Autopsy, which was the first time I saw Autopsy. We played with Cannibal, which was the first time I saw Cannibal in January 92. So it was a cool time, but it was just weird, I think, because in the Bay Area, everyone was so used to thrash metal. And it was so, thrash was, really at the commercial peak, 89, 90, 91. Yeah. And there was this sort of elitist thing where it was like, guys that played thrash metal were still kind of like, yeah, it's a bunch of fucking bullshit. It's a bunch of noise. Napalm Death, what the fuck is that kind of thing. And so to me, that was part of the appeal of it, because it was like, when you're 11, you think Metallica is very rebellious, and then you go to a stadium full of, whatever Shoreline is, full of 15,000 people. You're like, oh, these people are all into like Def Leppard and stuff. Like, what are they doing at a thrash metal gig? So for me, that was sort of the impetus to like keep digging deeper and deeper. And I love that death metal was kind of bucking against the staleness that thrash really had at that point. From 83 to 91 is a long time for a genre to develop, and it was really oversaturated, and it was really boring, and all the bands kind of sounded the same. And then, of course, the same thing started happening with death metal in 94, 95. By that time, I was like, well, we've already heard it. Like, let me guess, same Morris Sound Productions, same Dan Seagrave art. And then it's not that it was bad, it just was the same, and, So it's kind of a law of diminishing returns there. But, yeah, I definitely was a huge fan, and like I said, in Exhumed, we played with a lot of those bands. We played with Morbid Angel, Autopsy, or trying to think who else from Florida we played with specifically. We were supposed to play with Death, but that was the tour they canceled. It was the first Human tour, I guess, and they ended up canceling for some reason. Then they came back. But yeah, I feel like I've seen Death like so many times. It got to the point where I was like, would go and watch like Gore Fest or whatever, and then I was like, I'll catch a couple songs, like I'll hang out with some friends, because it's like my 8th, 9th time seeing.
Spoiled with it, right?
Yeah, totally. That's how, it was the same thing with Morbid Angel. I remember when they came with At the Gates and Dissection in 95, I was like, okay, it's Morbid Angel again, like, cool, it's rad, but I've seen it like so many times at this point, you know. But, oh yeah, that was a great show, man. I saw Slayer there as well in 97. That was insane. But yeah, I was always, a death metal guy from first time I sort of knew what it was when I was like 13, 14 or whatever. I was very early adapter.
It's funny you mentioned kind of like, the thrash growing over those 10 years, because it seemed like towards the late 80s, everybody was kind of breaking off, some Slayer, some Metallica, some Anthrax even, And then the one that bridged me was actually kind of Sepultura. I got a hold of some of their earlier stuff, and then that led me over to Roadrunner back in the day, and then I started finding all the Florida stuff, and I was just like, okay, check this out. And all my buddies out here on the West Coast, they were just like, dude, that sounds like shit. And I'm like, dude, this sounds great. Are you kidding me? What's the matter with you? It's a little more extreme, but then you had people like Obituary, which were super groovy, super heavy,
Yeah, it was definitely like a time of things sort of splitting off and splitting into different genres, because I think, when it starts out in the underground, with Exciter and Metallica or whatever, it's just metal, right? It's just metal command, metal up your ass, fistful of metal, heavy metal maniac, just metal. Then as it gets bigger and bigger, then it starts to sort of separate out into these different things, and people are looking for, ways to stand out from the crowd. What I remember the most about the early 90s around here was the fucking like funk shit. Everything was all about Faith No More and Primus and all that stuff, and that was getting huge, and I was like, not my scene at all, I like funk and I like metal, but I don't like funk metal. Just like I like rap and I like metal, but I don't like rap metal. It's just whatever. That's just my taste. But so death metal was a really refreshing antidote, because it doubled down on, thrash was like dark and evil and fast and aggressive, and like death metal was like, doubling down on that when you had records like Impact is Imminent, where Exodus is like making a song that's like an anti-drunk driving song. And it's like, dude, these are the guys who are like, when you die, you'll go to hell and live forevermore and all this stuff. And like 5 years later, it's like, oh, don't drink and drive. It's bad. Yeah. When the fuck did you turn into my dad? Like, fuck you, man. Like, I don't mean to single them out, but there was a lot of that going around. Like PSA thrash, we used to call it atrophy and all that stuff. And it was like public service announcement, like, hey, kids, illiteracy is bad. It can negatively affect your career. Let's write a thrash song about it. Like, no. How about like the devil, or like tearing somebody apart, or something like intense, you know? So that's you know, to me, death metal was the perfect antidote to all that stuff. Cool. Yeah.
So we got you got 3 releases out, 2 EPs and a full album, and within 2-3 years. Is that about right? Yeah. 15 with Savage Land, I think. Is that right?
15, 16, 17.
Yeah, 15. Yeah.
Every year.
There you go. Now, did the brainchild of Gruesome, did this come out of the Death to All stuff? Is this just a collaboration, a couple of good friends getting together and saying let's do something like this?
I mean, it's a bit of both. I mean, I think for me, I did the first Death to All run, and that kind of obviously made me revisit some Death stuff, and also kind of like get into the later stuff more that I kind of just heard at the time and didn't really spend a lot of time with. And then Gus was helping Sean Reinert on another DTA tour where Exhumed was out with Suffocation. They had 2 dates in Canada where we all have drunk driving convictions because we didn't listen to that Exodus song. Clearly, right? Yeah. You know, if I just would have listened to Rick Hunold, I would have had my life together. So we, instead of doing that, we did two dates with Death to All, and Gus was playing Baptized in Blood, right, with the band, and you know, Gus's style is much more like straightforward, kind of like thrashing and aggressive than Sean, who's very, you know, in the pocket, and he's all about the sort of the nuances and stuff. And Gus and I got talking backstage, and we were both like, man, wouldn't it be cool to see like a DTA tour where they just do like the first 3 albums? You know, we're like, you know, had a few drinks. It's like you could get James Murphy and Terry and Bill or whatever, or we'll do guitar, vocals, and drums, and we'll get Terry and James. We'll do this, and you know, it's like, you know, when you're doing a barbecue and you're cooking rad burgers and you're drunk with your friends, like, we're gonna open a burger shop, man. And that was that kind of talk. Yeah. And anyway, I was visiting my then girlfriend, now wife, in England. I was sitting around while she was at work, and she had this old guitar, and I was like, man, maybe I can just come up with some Death songs, you know, because I kind of said that jokingly, like, oh, if they don't do it, we'll make our own songs, ha. And so I wrote a couple tracks, and I sent them to Gus, and thankfully Gus is not only a killer drummer, but he's also an engineer. And so he sent me back, like, you know, I'd sent him these like really cheesy like MIDI files, you know, because I just didn't have any way to record over there. And he sent me back like an actual demo of the song. I heard it back, and I was like, this actually sounds like pretty fucking good, dude. Yeah. So, you know, from there, we just started writing, you know, thanks to the internet, it's really easy for me to be in California and them to be in Florida. Gus put the rest of the band together, and you know, kind of like provided that momentum to like keep me want to like churning out riffs. And it's not that hard to keep coming up with the material because I mean it is an homage. So we have the source materials right there. You know what I mean? It's not like what do we do next? Like it's like oh well, we're a Death tribute band, so we should do what Death does. So that kind of like gives you a nice jumping off point. Sure. You know.
No, I mean, I'm into newer, you know, releases from some of the classics that are still around today, the Suffocations and Vaders and stuff like that. Right. But from that first track on Savage Land, I was just like, dude, it took me back to being 13, 14, 15 years old again, and I was just like, this is what it's supposed to sound like to me. You know what I mean? That's not a diss on Obituary or any of their releases or nobody like that. But I heard that sound, and I'm like, shit, these guys got it. This is it. This is the stuff right here.
Well, thanks. I mean, honestly, that's what we were doing for ourselves. I mean, that's literally, I just wanted, you know, Chuck is no longer with us, so he's not capable of making a new Death record. And I was just like, man, if I could make a new Death record, like, what would I do? Yeah. And that's what I would do. And I just wanted that same, you know, that's what it was about. It was that same sort of like, that first hit, you know, of like, oh, I like this, that's you know? And it's nice to go back and revisit it. And it's great that the genre has continued to evolve and change and splinter off and do all these different things. And, you know, death metal wouldn't exist if it hadn't evolved. But at the same time, you know, I like to go back to the source and, you know, it's all about chasing that first high, man. Yeah.
And 3 months ago, Fragment of Psyche, is that right? Yeah, did I say it right? Fragment of Psyche came out, and that was kind of almost like a little behind the curtain look at a lot of those demos. I mean, are those were those some of the first things recorded, or how did that EP come around?
Well, the demo songs were the first things that we did. Basically, Gus and Dan did all the heavy lifting in Florida. I mean, that's another thing that I should give both of them a lot of credit for, because they do the lion's share of all the recording. I mean, some of the guitar solos on the first album are actually Gus, just because it's easier for them to get everything done in Florida, and then I show up and just do the vocals quickly because it saves money.
Sure.
And so they did everything in Florida, and I tracked the vocals in California. They put it together, and then we just put a couple of songs up on Bandcamp, and Relapse and offered us a deal, and here we are. And then the first 2 songs was kind of like I said, we already sort of have a blueprint, and I tend to be, I don't know if it's a boast or whatever, but I'm a pretty prolific songwriter. I don't know if it's good, but it's consistent, and then there's a lot of it. And so for me, I already have songs, for the next record's done, writing-wise, or it's 95% done. And, I have material going forward for the following 2, that's kind of human or individual or whatever, because the next one's like spiritual.
Nice.
And
that's my personal favorite.
Okay, cool. And so Gus again was talking to Sean, and he just asked Sean if he would want to play on a track, and we had a couple tracks already that were sort of in the human vein. So we got Sean to play on one, which is obviously a big feather in our cap. It's really cool for me to have a guy that I, when I was a kid, like, holy shit, listen to this drummer, this guy's insane. And it's like, oh, he's playing one of my songs. Like, that's pretty neat. And then the second track, the second new track, is like a reimagining of Choke on It, like if it had appeared on Human.
Okay.
And that's something that Gus and Dan again put together, fancied it all up and added all the harmonies and stuff that were not there at all on Leprosy. So it's kind of neat, because to me, the thing that I learned from doing DTA, playing like The Philosopher and Trapped in a Corner and Zero Tolerance and these kind of songs, that there really is a very stylistic or aesthetic through line for even from Scream Bloody Gore and some of the demos all the way through to Sound of Perseverance, that there's just things that Chuck does that are his things, and he puts them across in different ways and surrounds it with different kinds of instrumentation, but that still have that core death sound. And I think it was a neat way to sort of show that by taking a song that people think of as, oh, this primitive, like, caveman death metal, like Choke on It, and being like, dude, it's not that far away from like a Human track. Add a couple of harmonies, change a couple chords, get rid of the whammy bar and put in some like shredding and add some cymbal accents and some more double bass, and it's right there, So to me, it's interesting. It's kind of academic, I suppose, but I like it.
Yeah. So when do we expect in the next release and coming out?
We're looking at, we haven't even got studio time nailed down or anything yet, but we're looking at like next May as a projection. Okay. So
maybe about a year.
Oh, we kind of do. Right. Scoop. You heard it here first. I heard it here first. Yeah. Because there's a new Exhumed record coming out in October, and obviously because I'm in both bands, the label thought that they wanted to give it a little bit of space to, just so people aren't be like, oh, hey, it's that fucking Matt kid again. Like, we just talked to him. Fuck him. So, I don't know that much about marketing, so I trust their.
So since you're the young guy, right? You said it earlier. You're the younger guy, right? You ever gonna want to double dip and bring both bands and tour together?
I've considered it, and I just feel I fear for my voice is what it is, to be honest. Yeah. If I was just playing guitar in one band, I would be 100% for it. Because I did a show like that where my thrash band Decapitator played, and then I played with Repulsion directly after. And it was awesome because I was so warmed up from just playing a 40-minute set. Yeah. Then I just went and played guitar and didn't have to sing, and it was really cool. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. But to sing in both styles,
night after night,
for an hour and 40 minutes of death metal screaming is just. I think by day 3 I would be like, and the last thing I would want to do would be to give a shitty performance or have to consider canceling or getting a fill-in. It's just kind of. Takes away from it. Maybe like one show would be cool, like a party show or something.
That's cool. No, we're gonna try to go out on some lighter notes here. If it's a desert island question, you're stuck on the desert island. You've only got 3 albums to listen to for the rest of your life. What are they?
I got 3. I guess I would say Master of Puppets, Somewhere in Time, and Horrified by Repulsion.
Wow. Yeah, somewhere in time, right?
I love the synths, man.
I'm a seventh son of a seventh son guy.
That's well, it's not my second favorite, but it's up there. Like that's in my top cluster of Maiden albums.
Yeah,
you know, because it's hard to rank. They're all so good. You know?
They are. Yeah, even the newer stuff is still.
The last record was really killer.
I thought so too.
I thought Dance of Death was like the one misfire, but the rest have all been at least pretty good. You know?
Yeah. I'm trying to get Todd to listen to the last Iron Maiden record. He just won't. He won't do it.
What you got to do is just invite him over under a false pretense, like, oh, we'll watch the game, we'll have some beers, and it's like, oh, he's too drunk to drive home. You just put it on casually, and he'll start being like, hey, what Maiden song is this? You're like, gotcha.
Yeah,
that's what you got to do. You got to sneak it in there, man.
And how about a dream lineup from any time, any older bands, anybody? Who would you want to tour with? You probably toured with most of them already, but
I mean, for Gruesome, I guess I'd like to tour with. Obviously, Death would be the best, but it would be sort of redundant. You know what I mean? It'd be like, let me have an RC Cola, now let me have the Coke, the original. You know, I think if there was an actual, like, real reunited Massacre lineup, I think that would be a great band for us to tour with. We're going out with Obituary in, like, 3 days, so that's, you know, kind of the top Florida death metal bands for me. So, yeah.
And if you could play in any other band in any other time, who would you want to play with, and what would you want to do in the band?
Oh, dude, I know what I would do if I had a time machine. I would go back to fucking 1982 or whatever it was. Wait till Dave Mustaine got kicked out of Metallica, and I'd be like, I already know all your songs, dudes. It's fine. Like, let's just go for it.
Yeah, nice. So you'd be.
And plus, it pays well too. Like, it's my favorite band, and it pays well.
Is it still your favorite band all time?
Absolutely, hands down.
All right. Well, that's cool. This is Matt from Gruesome. Mean Gene from Hellbound. Go pick up the last EP and get out and see them with Obituary. They'll be out for about a month or so, right?
It's like 3 weeks.
Almost a month. Yeah. Stay metal.
Cheers, man.